Went on to organize, went on to organize.
They are go, Paul.
All right. This is Magpie Waters. This is Magpie Waters production. Pocatello, Let's Talk About Something show. We're here with Crete Brown and Danny LeClaire and Idaho Lorax and myself, Magpie Waters. What we're going to talk about, the topic today is the cyanide bombing of a local dog on a federal property next to a residential area. This sad event happened recently, and we're going to talk about it is my opinion that murder management's never been the right way to go as far as with animals or with people. It never has worked. Crete Brown, she's explored a little bit about genocide and massacres. She has a book that she brought with her, and it specifically talks about the Bear River Massacre and her study on how to connect with it. And, you know, the Bear River Massacre, the largest massacre in North America, and hardly anyone knows about it. They don't know why it happened, when it happened, and what are the effects of it on the community afterwards by ignoring it. So let's go with that, and Crete, we'll lead in with you.
Okay, well, specifically with regard to the cyanide bomb incident, not only was a pet, a family pet, killed, but that little boy, or that young man who was with that dog, no doubt will carry the effects of that cyanide poisoning for the rest of his life in his body. The fact that it happened in a residential area without any signage, the question comes, why didn't that family know, and why wasn't our community notified that these lethal weapons were being utilized to destroy alleged predator animals, which would be a coyote maybe. What's a predator animal? You know, a coyote.
Something is eating meat sometimes, anyways, yeah.
You know, and it's just that whole mentality of fear of the other. Anything that's wild, anything that could break into our reality, we've got to kill. We've got to destroy it, you know. And then we find out that there is a factory making these bombs right here in Pocatello. Nobody knows about it. Nobody's talking about it. We now have a picture of it. We've all driven by it. No sign on it saying cyanide bomb factory. You know, it's just a little cement building down by Kimport Station.
Well, interesting though, Magpie wrote about this 2015.
Oh.
About them making them here. You know, we try to warn people. The issue of signage is what is a problem in this community. Doesn't matter what it is. Do not tell. Cover up is the name of the game here. It's
Right.
Make money. They don't care what they do.
Well, you see, besides being involved in genocide and all of those things, I'm a clinical social worker, and I know in family systems, anytime there's a secret, family secret, that means something really bad, you know, happened, and nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to talk about the pink elephant in the living room. You know, everybody goes, shh. And same with, for example, right here, the Bear River Massacre, the single largest massacre of Native people in U.S. history, happened right here. And when I moved to town, nobody would talk about it. Nobody would, you know. It was like, well, that couldn't have happened here. Not here. Oh, no. You know. And the same with the need to keep cyanide bomb making a secret. You know, it's a secret. It's a community secret. Well, maybe it's a governmental secret.
Oh, I'd like to know, Danny, how long did you know about the massacre at Bear Lake?
Did your family talk about it?
Is it something that was in part of your growing up?
Well, I know it happened, but I'm not sure. I'm not exactly 100% on it. I know people got... If it's a massacre, yeah, it did happen, more than likely. Of course, I don't want to talk about it. If anything, they'll call it a battle. They always try and do, but massacre is actually where they come in, they kill everyone. The men, the women, the children, elderly, whatever. It's reading about it.
Don't they have a gathering there once a year still? No? I know, 'cause I've seen it in a video. I had
go
it at
every
one
year.
time, and I wanted to go myself sometime, and it was also,
it's
so usually during Martin
January-
Luther King
it's-
Month or whatever.
No, it's January 27th, I think, or
January 27th.
20 of every year, and the Northwest Band Shoshone sponsor a big memorial. But it's always in the dead of winter. It's
Mm-hmm.
cold, but so you have to want to go there.
Yeah.
But of course, all the massacres occurred in the winter.
In the winter, yes.
And the
it's
people were
interesting.
cold, and
Yes.
hungry, and least able to defend
Sleeping
themselves.
in their homes quietly,
Yeah.
not causing any trouble, just came the winter and then get massacred.
I did a video about that in regards to Standing Rock, and it's when the authorities announced that they were gonna. Well, someone announced that the authorities are going around to the local stores and asking the stores not to sell the people propane and
Oh, yeah.
food, and to try to starve them out. And so I did a video about starving them out, and I talked about the U.S. cavalry while they were in their pursuit of Crazy Horse, the destruction that they,
Buffalo.
not just the buffalo, but the people. They would go into camps and they'd kill everybody, everyone they could, and they would leave these people without food or clothing in some of the harshest conditions in the world, and they called it war. It was murder and genocide. These people got medals for heinous acts. But what we're talking about today isn't the heinous acts of then, but we can't talk about that because they apply. What we're talking about is making our government responsible to the people, because Magpie's learned something. I used to see animals in a different light. I grew up in a family where we did a lot of hunting and fishing and ranching, and you would call us really conservative Republicans. We, people earned their own way. We shouldn't have food stamps, welfare, or anything of the sort, and government should be small, and our federal lands really shouldn't be federal. They should be, the people should be able to use them more. But my perspective's changed. I've started, and it's because I've learned that animals, if you let them get to you, they'll change it. Because I used to see them through the perspective of a rifle scope, and I used to see them as dinner, or as a beautiful pelt or hide or antlers, for different things. But since I started videotaping them and watching them and getting to know them as individuals, that they are not just coyotes or deer or elk. Their moms, their dads, their brothers, their sisters. They are unique individuals just like me. And so when you're going out there and you're going out and killing unique individuals and you're saying that they're not good, a certain species, it's like going and labeling pit bulls as all pit bulls are bad. All this is bad. Well, at the university they'll teach you in English that those are called faulty generalizations. And we can't go there. And when it comes to this U.S. Department of Agricultural Program, Wildlife Services, I learned about this Crete in Danny about 3 years ago. I started preaching about this, that this is going to happen in Pocatello unless we stop it. I was urging that, at the close of the trapping season to still be vigilant and beware, because I know they're out there. They will not tell you. They lie, and they have a history of lying. Not that the U.S. government's never had that label on it before. They've always keep their word with natives and everybody else. And so, that's one of the things we read I read in Sunday's papers, how this program had made an agreement with the BLM not to put cyanide bombs anywhere in Idaho on BLM land. Yet, how'd that dog get killed? How did Canyon get poisoned? And Crete's right. There are many instances. This is not the first boy or first person that's been had a cyanide bomb incident that they put out. And so they do it. They do what they want. And so I've warned people this is the third year. I'm sad that it happened, but I knew it was gonna. It's inevitable. And the thing is with trappers and especially with wildlife services, they're not transparent because they feel like if they're transparent, let people know where the traps are, that there's people who don't want to see an animal suffer. So they'll go set off their traps or steal their traps. So they like to do it in secret and quiet. And my goal here, this show, is to have the Wildlife Service program ended in Bannock County. Sheriff Nielsen said there's no place for cyanide bombs in Bannock County. I say, not only is there no place for cyanide bombs, get your depot out of here. There's enough poison there to kill everyone in Idaho and Utah. And to no longer operate in Bannock County. We don't need you. If you're not going to listen and tell the truth and not be responsible to the people, because the government is the people. The government isn't Republicans and Democrats. It's us here. We don't get it. People don't get it. We are the ones who should be the leaders, not the led. They represent us, not, they try to always do it the other way around. But so yes, Fish and Wild,
Well, I think they're trying to there's a petition going around to try and pass a law to banning these cyanide bombs. I've gotten through Facebook and also on my phone many petitions.
I'm talking about the commissioners?
I
Or
don't know
where
who
would
it's
this
to.
go
It's a
to?
petition to ban cyanide bombs.
Because the commissioners right now, especially Tovey and
The
Fraser
county
the county commissioners are closing off a lot of things that they don't want people to know. I mean, they banned me basically from any presenting of documents or anything to
well,
the
and this
county.
banning seems to be a tool that the city of Pocatello has used on you and other individuals, and it sounds like the county's been doing it. And so if this is one of their, ways they do business, I would say the people should ask, if you're going to be doing ban this Department of Agriculture program from Bannock County.
There you go.
And the cyanide bombs, that's just one of it. They shouldn't be here, period. Get them out. And if you have an issue with animals, I know people who, they use non-lethal mitigation to take care of animals. We need to learn to coexist. That's why genocide happens. You know why they killed Indians? Oh, they couldn't get along with them. That's why they, like Danny said, they call it a massacre.
Yeah.
But then we find out when we do archaeology, these people were lined up, shot in the forehead. And that was a battle?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the battle? You pulling the trigger or not, pal? And the battle has been for the rest of their lives down there, where they've tried to keep it covered up and hid.
I might add another element to the picture there, because where that location is, where they make them, is over there by the Idaho Research Development, the measurements department facility, right there over there on 2nd Street. And that's also an area they got uranium all around it. And again, it's another thing. They don't have a Geiger counter? They can't measure things they don't know, but they work together. The university is tied into things here. It's money. It's, some of it they call it research, but in that case, no, it's just.
Well, when they bombed Japan,
Yeah.
part of that was research too.
Yeah.
I think our government's more than willing to do research on people and corpses, and to just see what levels, things go to. And I don't want to be a research project personally.
I mean, you have to think about how the world was here before Western encroachment. You think about all the animals and all the people and the trees and the rivers were how they interrelated and balanced each other. There's a universal law of, I guess it's now called ecology, of balance in nature. And yet somehow Western governments seems to want to manage the rivers, manage the animals, manage the Native Americans, manage everything, manage the weather,
Manage the people.
manage the people. And they're not doing a very good job at all. And there's massive injustice going along with it.
But we call them agencies, and that's authority. But there's where the corruption begins, because who's in control of the agencies? The politicians we vote in at the state level. And that's why the agencies here, they all have their hands tied, because it comes from people like John Tibbetts, who's over that environmental department, environmental quality, he's just protect the mines. Or you got Richard Armstrong, over the health department. How did the health department get out of health issues in Bannock County? It happened when I was gone, but I come back and what happened to the health department? How come the health department's not involved with health here of people and contamination or potential accidents for contamination? You know, things have changed since I was here before. Boy, quite a bit since 1990s. So coming back, I was astounded by how much even the Superfund site didn't include Pocatello. How can that happen? You know, same material, same stuff, but how Pocatello's not included? Because it's people. And they're not here to protect people. They make more money over this bird guinea pigs than anything. So how many people might survive over a cyanide explosion down here on 2nd Street? Well, I guess that'd be good scientific study later.
Yes, it would be a good scientific study. Yeah.
So now, what can be done with when we talk about a ban, the city banned you, and that was done through a letter from a lawyer from the city. Is that right, Idaho?
No, actually, it comes from the mayor of Pocatello and the city council. You know, that's the government. City councils is really a city council issue. Our city people who run the
So
city.
to get this wildlife, this program to not function in Bannock County, I'm going to say we need to have a gathering. This is a good gathering. A gathering of 4 is strong. We have 4 directions. There's 4 of us here, and I feel strength and unity here.
Well, actually, we're going to need a bigger room.
Well, right, but
I think we can see that here.
We're
We're
going
going
to
to need a
that
bigger
city
room.
council and go up and make those comments and say, this program needs to end. And it needs to end because of our safety and because of our community and the welfare of our community. Pocatello has right now, as far as on the national and world scene, we are seen as a bigoted community, a community that there's not a lot of equality at times, and that we have to fight for the equality that we get. And so let's move in a different direction, and let's say, no, we're not that. We're not that. We are that, and we have been that at times, and we can be better than that. Those animals are natives. They belong here. They were here before men were here. They were here before people, and they should be here after we're gone. And these animals that they're killing,
Like the
are for-
buffalo.
yeah,
the
they're-
buffalo is just stupid. It's
they are
crazy.
non-native animals. A lot of them they kill them for the benefit of domesticated animals. The West has been changed. People want to make the West the East in Europe instead of embracing the West the West. Instead of embracing sagebrush, let's tear all the sagebrush up. Instead of embracing that great, beautiful landscape that the Creator made for our benefit, we change it still for money. And that's something that our world deals with. But to have a healthier, better community, and a community that will be inviting to tourists and to increase our economy, like Crete said, if we had bison here, if we could get the tribe to say, hey, the bison are sacred, and we're going to let them roam on our reservation.
They tried to do that at Fort Washakie. They built a place for the buffalo to come, and they slaughtered them anyway. Yeah, I mean, I have friends at Fort Washakie, and they were celebrating that the buffalo were going to be released from Yellowstone and given to the Shoshone there in Fort Washakie. But then at the last minute they said no, and they slaughtered over 1,000 buffalo for no reason.
Now, Crete, I'd like to know a little bit more about this, a transformative learning project.
Well,
Because that's something I engage in this community. I call it paradigm shift,
Right.
from cover up to clean up, things like that. Simple words, simple usage, and it's happening, but paradigm shifts are hard, but this is a way, a direction to help. That
I've
paradigm
always-
shifts
I've-
of values and.
In looking back over my own evolution as a person, I recognize now that I was always looking for larger paradigms, larger worldviews, larger contexts for me to understand the world. My first degree was in anthropology, and it was because I wanted to have cross-cultural exposure, and that was a paradigm. And then from there I went to systems-based social work, which is, instead of individual, it's systems. And that was pretty good, but it was pretty mechanistic. So finally I went to a transdisciplinary university and got a doctorate in transformative studies, which is a complete different approach to learning, because instead of being discipline-based in your approach, you're inquiry-based. So no matter whatever your question is, you go across all disciplines and past disciplines. So you get into that which is not discipline-based.
Kind of like what I refer in my expertise as project learning.
Yeah.
It basically
and
crosses all
so
those,
you
yeah.
then, it can be very confusing, but it's very enriching approach to finding answers to questions you wouldn't otherwise be able to answer within the context of a single discipline
Mm-hmm.
or even interdisciplinary studies. So, I mean, well, anyway, that we're off topic there. I don't want to make this.
Well, yeah, that's true, but
it's-
still,
it's
it's what we're
very-
trying to do here,
Mhm.
in a way. We're trying to incorporate those things.
Well,
Yeah.
we're trying to get the people in our city to join with us and say, if you agree that these wild animals should be wild, and that if you are living on the edges of the town, that
Right.
you are going to probably encounter animals like bears and
And you're
cougars
encroaching
and
on their
coyotes
territory.
and foxes.
And it's their
And
territory.
you're like, even Canyon Mansfield and the Mansfield family, they're living on the edge. And so if you don't want to have a bear come into your house, take care of your bird feeders. You need to, if you want to live in bear country, and in bear country, who doesn't want to live in bear country? Because bear country is beautiful. It's, it's got everything in nature that we want. Because that's what the bears need to survive. In bear country, like where grizzlies are, and like the bison, the reason people love that, and this is my belief, is because it keeps us humble. Because when we go into those places, we're not the top. We could get eaten real quick by a grizzly bear. You have no chance, brother. I tell you what, if it doesn't eat you, it's because you taste bad. It's...
I used to present people from my background what things looked like before. Now, we have old snapshots of Pocatello. They're in black and white. Sometimes it looks like a big desolate area. And I would ask the question, why would somebody, even the Shoshone-Bannock's, want to live here? Well, that's because that's not what it looked like. In fact, you have to go back 100, maybe more than that year before, when the trappers came. Because this valley, they took out, 4,000 to 10,000 beaver every year, a keystone species. So the reality of the area, and I study land forms, is this was full of ponds and lakes and fish and greens and things that are all edible from all over this area. It was totally different. And
Well-
we just eliminate the keystone species, and there goes all back to the
Look at
barren desert.
Pocatello Creek. Pocatello Creek, 150 years ago, when I was reading the newspaper from 150 years ago, they caught 10-pound cutthroat trout out of Pocatello Creek. Pocatello Creek right now
10 pounds.
doesn't even
Yeah.
exist in most
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
And so that is partly because of the keystone species being taken out. But to get back to it, what do we do to change it? How do we get back? Can we get back? Should we get back? And I say, yes, we should.
I think the Shoshone here are doing some very important work in bringing back the salmon, for example. I know their fisheries project. I've talked to people. Do you know some things about their fishery project?
I have some friends in the fishery department. I'm not too sure. I haven't kept up with them lately.
Yeah, well, I know that they're very involved in bringing the salmon back, for example. Of course, they're very dedicated to the wildlife. They're very dedicated to the rebalancing of their, what Western culture calls resources, Native culture calls relatives. These are our relatives. These are our friends. We need them. It's a complete different worldview. So we need our native neighbors, and we need the knowledge that they carry to help us get back in balance, or we're going to destroy the planet that gives us life. It's just that simple. We cannot manage everything like it's some kind of scientific project. There's order in nature that needs to be honored and respected. This cyanide bombs. I mean, can you imagine that plant could blow up and probably kill half of our city, if not all of it, and we didn't even know about it.
When you bring up cyanide bomb, let me just say this. I want to get this in before we close. Is that in Auschwitz and in Germany, cyanide is the primary killer of those people. And why did that happen? Because the German people didn't stand up and resist and say, hey, this making these people disappear and taking them away to camps, this is wrong. That's why we have to stand up and say for these animals, because if they're willing to do it to them, I'm next, or you could be next. They're willing to take you out, ban you, but not just ban you, cyanide you. And these things need to end. We've seen in our history where it was okay to do that. We don't want that to be okay. It's not okay to do it to animals, and we definitely don't want.
And it's not okay to cross treaty lines to take over camps, I was at Standing Rock, and I watched it was one thing when they took Standing Rock, but when they went across the river into Sacred Stone, which was absolutely, tribal land, that was an atrocity, an absolute atrocity. I wept for 3 days. How can we make treaties and we break them? We make treaties and we break them. We've broken every treaty, and so there's no honor.
I think that's the thing right there. I think, the treaties, when natives signed treaties, they did it with pure intent. When, like, that oil company up there, I will not use their name, when they do things, they're like a lot of big corporations and people. They'll break the law because they're willing to pay a ticket.
Yeah.
And okay, what's the fine? What's the fine? Let's just get it done, pay the fine. They can do what they will. They can't stop us. We'll pay a fine.
We'll pay the fine.
But the people, and that's the thing, if you want to learn something from Standing Rock, it wasn't just the natives that were there. It was people from around the world, and people from everywhere came there and joined together and became unified. And there was no, significant leadership where there's a central figure. There wasn't a Russell Means from AIM or something like this where, sending out orders. It's not one man's agenda. It was the world coming together. And at times I hear Standing Rock was just a disaster because people had a hard time with their different ideas and philosophies, but they were unified that, man, we fight for water because water's life, and this madness has to stop. And, a lot of times we take things and we try to glorify them and make them things they're not, but learn from what it was, and it was a great gathering of people to resist something that was bad.
Well, for me, it was the gathering of the nations. It was the first time since Western encroachment that the tribes could come together, and those 3 teepees and the sacred fire, just like it was 250 years ago. That was majestic, absolutely majestic, to see that sacred fire and all the people, 144 nations, their flags going down to the teepees. Oh, it was historic. It was beautiful.
And I think actually it's probably better than 250 years ago, because 250 years ago, Shoshones were chasing Sioux, and Sioux were when they were chasing Crazy Horse, it was Shoshones and Crows that were helping that cavalry find them. Because when those Shoshones went into those camps, they found their relatives' body parts on some of the Sioux, and there was great animosity and hatred for one another. Because, you killed my family and you're carrying around my sister's fingers or her body parts so she won't be happy in the next world. I'm going to try to kill every single one of your family, and I'm going to die doing it. To think that we moved that far along to where people who used to hate each other can love each other and fight for the same things and let the past be buried. That's the one thing natives can teach Americans, is that peace is a good thing. We signed peace treaties, which meant we weren't going to fight organized as tribes against this government anymore, because they promised us something we never had before, and that was peace. And we're still fighting to get that peace.
Yeah.
The peace our ancestors died for and signed for and suffered for, we still want it, and it's something that we can have. But all Americans have to join together to get it.
Yeah, well, maybe water will be the topic, because that's
standing there as big as life, smiling with his eyes, asked Joe what they